Good afternoon or evening, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical forecast here by Adrian's Weather Forecast. And we have a lot to talk about for the North Atlantic. So we now have four area of interest here in the North Atlantic. So it sure does look like the peak of the hurricane season. But before we get into the actual forecast, for all the people who know, today is obviously September 11th, meaning today is the 20th anniversary since the attacks on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and as well the field there in Pennsylvania. Obviously, four planes from the group Al Qaeda. So at the end of the video, I'm going to have a little kind of, I guess, silence or memorials silence thing at the end of the video to, I guess, just to recognize and just to recognize those who risked their lives on that day. So if you have any family members that died on that day, I really am sorry for your loss, and they died as a hero, and their name will never be forgotten. But that's gonna happen at the end of the video. So if you want to kind of just be part of that, just stay to the end of the video. But let's now go ahead and get to the actual forecast. So there we have Invest 93L and Invest 94L. And then we have these two new AOIs. Actually, this new AOI formed just within the past advisory here, a 20%, I believe so, just off the coast there of the Bahamas. Invest 98L, or not 98L, sorry, 94L is most likely going to be Nicholas, I believe, is the next name. So most likely will be Tropical Storm Nicholas. It now has a 80% for the next 48 hours and a 90% for the next 5 days. The tropical wave and upper level trough continue to produce an area of largest overnight showers across over portions of southeastern Mexico. I believe the low pressure as of now is still over the coast of still over Mexico, but likely to move out into the Bay of Campeche very, very soon. As of now, the conditions aren't the most favorable, but as it goes deeper into the actual warm Bay of Campeche waters, the upper level winds will become a little bit more conducive as well overall. It'll have just overall better water as it tracks further to the northward. So this will be a threat to Texas. So it's going to be going more of a due north turn because of the overall steering. But we'll get into that later in the video. So watching out there for some flash flooding and mudslides across Yucatan Peninsula and Central America, as well as watching out the coastal areas of Texas and Louisiana by middle of next week. And then Invest 93Ls at a 50% for the next 48 hours and a 70% for the next 5 days. Again, we have a tropical wave associated with the trough in the middle of the axis, and this is going to as well be going through a rather favorable environment here, which is why it's still at a very high risk of development. And then there we have this little guy right here. This one's actually very interesting. This is at a 20% for formation there. This is our AOI number 3. So this actually has a pretty good environment as well. Very kind of part of the same tropical wave or African easterly wave, which is obviously is a part there of Invest 93L. So we're gonna be watching out multiple areas of lows of vorticity. So gonna really watch out for Africa and the MDR as we continue throughout early next week. And then we have this small little one over here, 20%. This one just popped up, and I've not really gone to look at it really, but we'll get deeper into the actual 3 AOIs later in this video. So here's now a look at Invest 93L. So obviously it's now nighttime across portions there near the GMT vicinity. So obviously we are seeing, I think, what is it? I think it's like maybe 11 o'clock for this general vicinity. I think, no, it's actually maybe 10 o'clock. I think it's 10 or 11 o'clock, so it's obviously nighttime across the Cape Verde Island vicinity. But there's the overall look at Invest 93L. Obviously, looks like a pretty good area of a tropical wave. There you see the overall decently westerlies here, as well as seeing some good amount of overall spin within these cumulus and cirrus clouds. You can kind of just see the overall spin there. We are seeing an overall decent amount of flow within this low pressure itself. Low pressure is basically located around this general area, I believe. So within this general area, 22 west and around maybe 15 degrees north. But that was obviously a long time ago. So it's most likely the latest we can actually go before it actually gets dark is right here. So at this point, it's most likely going to be at this point right here. So it's kind of going more due westward. You can kind of see the latest convection burst kind of on the northern part of the actual low level. Or actually, I'm not even sure if we have actually a closed little circulation, but there's the overall low pressure itself, and I'm not sure if we actually have full recon, or not recon, sorry, full ASCAT data, but there you go, you see the flow right there, some good amount of overall flow within this actual invest itself. So I'm going to watch out whether it can possibly become a trough depression probably within the next 24 to maybe 36 hours or so. So actually, we do have a full pass here, but I believe this is rather old. So this is not the most recent data or ASCAP pass. But here's the latest overall information here. This is a look here at 37 temps. So you can see some areas of actual convection kind of all around this actual system itself. So there is some widespread amount of initiation going on specifically in that northeast quadrant like we just saw. But really, it's pretty disorganized. It's pretty overall and elongated low pressure. Obviously, it's really, as of what I've seen, it's not closed. But I don't think we actually have a full pass on the actual wind data. Yeah, we don't actually have an actual full pass with the actual wind data itself. But it does support here 1,010 millibars and 25 knots, which is basically 30 miles an hour. Let's now get a look here at the 89 temperature here. This is going to give us a better idea of what this low pressure is looking like. Actually, let's do the different one here. Sometimes I just always forget which one I'm looking at. There we go. I'm pretty sure it's the 89 color. At least I believe so. It's 89 color. Yep, it's 89 color. So here's a latest look here on 89 color pass, and you can see we're seeing a decent amount of convection kind of surrounding this actual low pressure itself, but we don't have any evidence to support that this is a closed low pressure. So it's most likely going to stay as an invest, but we will see whether it gets upgraded to a depression within the next 24-ish hours. Let's now get a look at the overall track forecast for Invest 93L. So there is a chance this could very well actually become a threat for the Lesser Antilles and the overall Caribbean. There's really not a good idea whether this will go out this year or not. We don't really have much model guidance except for the overall ensembles that really support this. But here's a look here at the Invest 93L track based on the 18Z ensembles. You can see the majority are having this kind of going basically just due west, and then after 3 days it kind of starts splitting up here. Some are getting it out to sea, some are taking it continue to go westward. So if this were to actually verify this part of the track, we would definitely keep a close eye on for the overall threat of the Lesser Antilles. And obviously I will get a little bit more to the depth in how the ridge and the overall troughs that we're experiencing for the next few days will affect this track and which one will most likely verify. But right now I'm just going over the broad forecasted tracks, and then I'll explain the actual tracks itself. But here's the overall look at the GEFS ensemble models. Obviously they're really not showing anything too crazy within this. Only really getting to as low as 1,011 millibars within the next 48 hours. A few members are getting this to sub 1,010 millibars. Most likely maybe get to 1,008, 1,007. But we only have one getting it sub 1,000 millibars or sub 1,005 millibars. But other than that, there's not too crazy, really intensity guidances that are really scaring this system off to be a major hurricane like Larry. Here's a look here as well at the intensity guidance, and this only 2 of these actually get to a tropical storm. Actually, I'm really shocked for the first time for an MDR storm, the models don't go completely crazy, all showing it category 1, category 2. But yeah, only 2 are getting this to a tropical storm, and a few are just keeping it below 39 miles an hour. Sorry, this is going to be 40 miles an hour right here. But there is a chance it could become a tropical depression, but we're going to keep a close eye on it, and that's why there's a better chance that the one in the Bay of Campeche is actually called Nicholas, and then I think the next thing is going to be Odette. So we're going to keep it close, or Odette, actually. It's going to be, we have to watch out for Odette. So it's either, I think if anything's going to be Odette, there's actually a really good chance that new 20% off Africa will become Odette. There's really just overall a lot more, I guess you could say, guidances within it. And there's been a long track guidances within that as well before it even was an AOI. We're just going to really watch out for all 4 AOIs. So here's a look here at the Bay of Campeche satellite imagery for Invest 94L. I do believe the low pressure actually is just off the coast here within this broad area of cloud cover, with the most amount of convection actually sitting over the waters of the Bay of Campeche. So I believe I'm just seeing the overall kind of stationary front here, allowing this just to kind of just stay slowly where it is, which is going to gradually get closer to the actual Bay of Campeche waters. This most likely will be over the waters by tonight, which will allow the possibility for us getting a tropical depression as early as tomorrow morning, and maybe even a tropical storm, probably within maybe the next 24 hours or so, maybe even 36 hours. So we're going to really watch out whether we can get Nicholas rather soon here, and as well just keeping a very, very close eye on Texas. And really watch out for some flooding threats here as the storm stays pretty slowly over the coast of the waters of Mexican Bay of Campeche. But right now, seeing decent amount of convection, a few decent sized clouds kind of stretching that way a little bit. You can kind of see some decent westerlies kind of scooping the storm from the south. But overall, the storm's not looking too crazy, but obviously it will become a lot better looking as we get later into the next 24 hours or so. So let's now get a look here at the actual and summer models here. So obviously there they have, this is within, I believe, what, the next 24 hours or so. We do have there the low pressure over water. It's going to be obviously Invest 94L, and there's 93L. There are a decent amount of malls obviously jumping on it, because obviously it formed earlier as an Invest there, 1,008, 1,006 millibars or so. However, again, just really just not get its act together. You see actually these numbers are the lower, or actually increase a little bit, getting to 1,010, 1,009. So again, we're going to start seeing just really low confidence within this Invest 93L. I mean, there is still a chance it could very well form, considering there is actually not too shabby conditions. But you can see a lot of models now starting to jump on that new AOI over there, the 20%. You're going to see that wave, that low pressure come off from the same AEW. And then there you see potential Tropics from Nicholas here, 1,008 millibars, 1,006 millibars. We see one with 1,000 millibars, 1,005 millibars. We're seeing a lot of members within these blues. You're seeing a little spotty green, so maybe watching out for 40 to 50 knots there. And there you see the kind of start to just skin the coast here of Texas here with the ridge pattern. We're missing a strong ridge, kind of like that. There's going to be the high pressure, so it's going to steer within this ridge as it pushes northward. So it's not going to go into Mexico, and it most likely will be a big rain soaker there for much of the eastern Texas area. And maybe watching out for maybe a Corpus Christi landfall, maybe a Brownsville landfall, maybe a Houston landfall, Galveston landfall. I mean, it could very well make a landfall near Beaumont, Texas. We have no idea. But look at this here. Look at the 20% there off Africa. Now, this one, like I said early on, this one actually has extreme confidence from ensembles here. You see not much with anything with 93L. But look at this one. This could very well, once it gets over water, become an Invest. Already, just off Africa, jumping off to 1,003, 1,000 millibars. Already seeing even some greens at 40 to 50 knots. And then seeing some oranges. Oranges as early as this region in the MDR. That's 60 to 70 knots. So that's supporting possibly a hurricane, like where Larry became a hurricane. Actually, I believe Larry became a hurricane like over here, or even like over here. So this would become a hurricane before Larry did, and Larry became a hurricane pretty early on in the MDR. So this is actually pretty intimidating here, like 992 millibars, 980 millibars, 980 millibars. Actually, I think we have some 970s here, 973. I mean, look at this. This is actually pretty intimidating. Just look at that, though. Really, really intense models here. These ensembles are really going absolutely crazy. Actually, I believe we have a hunt. Wait, actually, no, I think that, I can't tell. I think we're seeing some like pinks or whatever, and that would be a really strong. But you see 974, 968, 967 right here. I mean, they're just going absolutely crazy, these ensembles, and they're taking it straight, absolutely straight for the Caribbean there, for the Lesser Antilles, Greater Antilles. So this could very well become a very significant threat here. Like I did say, there's been a lot of overall, I guess, support. I mean, now we're starting to get up to, I believe this is 80 to 90 knots right here, 956 millibars. We're getting a few kind of getting closer to Puerto Rico, but this could very well be a very similar Larry track if it's to verify. I mean, this is definitely a very intimidating guidance here. I mean, we're seeing 953 right here, 950, 943. I mean, this is definitely really, really intimidating. So we're going to really watch out for that 20% there. And again, I don't think there's really anything picking up. Let's go back here for a second. I don't think there's really anything picking up there on the AOI near the Bahamas. So we're just going to keep a close eye on all of these. But really looking like a really intimidating storm, possibly. So here's a track here for 94L, again, likely to maybe be a threat for almost all, if not all of the Texas coast here. So all the way from like really the northern coast of Mexico to even Louisiana. We're really watching out for some potential rather significant flooding here. So there it is. They have it just off the coast here. I mean, they actually have it basically just just inland there actually. So this is probably, like I just said, like it's probably gonna be over water probably by tonight here. But again, still a rather slow mover, but likely to kind of go northwestward and then just turn northward and then go northeastward because of the ridging pattern. So as this ridge is kind of right here right now, or actually no, it's kind of like right here right now, it's going to be able to keep going that way. But as this ridge now starts to go that way, more like that axis, it's going to be able to now start going northward like that. That's going to be the reason for why it's most likely not going to make landfall in Mexico and probably be a landfall for mainly Corpus Christi. And they're going to go into areas like Tyler, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, into Little Rock, into areas as well near Jonesboro, that vicinity in Arkansas. Here's a look here at the in GFS. It tracks the minimal center pressure. There's obviously a lot lower numbers here than for 93L, getting up to 1,002 millibars, with actually a few members getting it up to sub 990. Actually, one has it making a landfall near Lake Charles in Cameron, Louisiana. A few still getting it a landfall into Mexico, but the majority have it just east of the mean. So we're really watching out there for Texas, but we have a good amount of members actually having it sub 1,000. So we could very well get a rather decent tropical storm. There's not there we can't run the possibility for a hurricane, but I still think that's rather really just too early to say at all really for anything like that. But just keep a very close eye on this. This could very well be maybe a 60 maybe-ish miles an hour system. So just gonna keep a very close eye on it. But likely to become a tropical storm by the next 36 hours or so. So really watching out for depression probably within that next maybe 18 hours or so. Obviously, waters are very favorable for this area. For basically all storms, we do actually have waters in the western and actually a portion of the northern Bay of Campeche reaching over 31 degrees Celsius, which actually a skyrocketing 33 degrees Celsius there in the Bahamas. So that's going to be very interesting for that AOI over there. As well, waters are very warm across the MDR. That's the reason why it's a peak season for the peak SSTs across the MDR and the overall Atlantic. So we're going to be seeing waters of actually 29.5 to maybe 30 degrees Celsius as you go further westward into the MDR. So really watch out for that 20% as it goes basically all the way westward across the whole MDR, and if the track verifies into the really warm as well northeastern Caribbean waters. So that's going to be a very interesting story. But overall, waters are very warm for all AOIs, so that's going to be a pretty big interest as well. And to cause the extreme ocean heat content we already see right now. Obviously, we're seeing some extreme ocean heat content across the western Atlantic, as well specifically centered, like we always see, in the just outside the Yucatan Peninsula between Jamaica and overall Cancun. And then basically, it's just this little triangle where you have the extreme ocean heat content. Actually, let's do a new color. Let's try to figure out what color I can use. Maybe this color will work. I'm not sure. It's this triangle right here that always has really warm ocean heat content. And that's where storms just go absolutely crazy, as well as a decent amount of ocean heat content for 94L as it goes into the waters. Obviously, 93L is not going to be over really any warm ocean heat content. It's going to be within less than 25 meters, and that's not going to be anything too crazy. But that 20% further southward is going to be going into some warmer water, so that will be something very interesting. So here's a look at the European probabilities here for a tropical depression. So obviously we have an area for Invest 93L, 94L, and that new AOI over there off Africa. You can see the one off Africa actually has a higher probability for the next 0 to 3 days. So we're likely to probably see a massive increase in probability and confidence within that 20% within the next 24 hours. Who knows? That could very well be a high risk of probabilities for the next 5 days by maybe even a day and a half from now. So we're probably seeing a skyrocketing increase in probabilities for that 20% off Africa, and I can almost guarantee it based on the conditions and based as the storm's getting closer into the actual coast of Africa. So we have a 80-90% there for tropical depression winds for 93L, a 90 to 100% chance for that 20%, and a 90 to 100% chance for the next 0 to 3 days for 94L. And the next 1 to 4 days, there you see that increase in the 90 to 100% chance there for the 20%, and a decreasing probability to 70 to 80% for 93L. And there you see that widespread 90 to 100% chance for 94L. So looks like we may see Odette probably being the 20% there. And you can just see as it continues to go in the MDR, we're missing a pretty large 90 to 100% chance. Tropical storm probability, we do actually have a Let's see here, a 40 to 50% chance right here for Texas. So we do have a 40 to 50% chance for a tropical storm, and there you see a 50 to actually no a 60 to 70% chance probability for a tropical storm out of that 20%, and then it gets to a 70 to 80%, and then it stays at a large. Actually, I think that's a 80 to 90%. It actually gets to an 80 to 90%. So we're seeing extreme confidence within this actual system itself. So this 20% could very well be a big storm. Let's now get into the hurricane probability. This is going to shock you guys. Look at that, a already 20 to 30% for the next 2 to 5 days, and then we get a massive 40 to 50% chance for a hurricane. So actually, the Europeans really jumping on this 20% here. This could very well be a big storm here, and we're going to really watch out for the Caribbean. So let's now get a look at the GFS here for the North Atlantic. So there they have, within the next 48 hours, a 997 millibar storm there for 94L, only 1,012 millibars there for 93L. Again, there's really not much confidence with the 93L at all. But I mean, look at that there. The GFS getting to 991 millibars and then having it make landfall there, actually all the way up near Lake Charles. So definitely an interesting track there. CMC, on the other hand, they want to have here. Actually, let's go. I forgot to talk about the 20%. And then the 20% there they have the actual spinning low pressure. Actually, low pressure is actually far into Africa. But there's the low pressure kind of coming off as early as the next 2 days. So you can kind of see a good amount of spin within the actual trough right there. You kind of see the trough's going to be right here, so within that tropical wave. So I'm going to really watch out for that. But again, the GFS has something really crazy within that. But the overall ensembles are going absolutely mental overall. Here's now a look at the CMC and what they want to have. So that's what I think the CMC is doing a little bit more within the actual 20%. But there they have nothing within actually within the actual 94L itself. There's the actual low pressure. They have making landfall there in Mexico. Completely wrong country. I just said that. But here's a look at the 20%. They actually have a decent storm here within 20%. 999 millibars within the next by September 18th, and then becoming a 988 millibar storm. So CMC as well going pretty good within the system itself. But let's now go look at the European here. I think the Europeans actually showing a monster storm itself as well. I believe they are showing a rather strong storm. So they have a really good vorticity signature there for soon to be Nicholas there, making landfall near Corpus Christi in southern areas of Galveston. And there you see they have a really intense low vorticity signature immediately after it crosses Africa, or actually it comes off from Africa, and it becomes actually really a monster storm there. Let's look at the overall 800 millibar height and wind, and they have really good winds here within 80 knots or so. That's obviously 850 millibars, so it's probably going to be they probably have a decent hurricane going on there, but I mean, really intimidating here if you ask me. Let's now go look at the overall ridging pattern that kind of explain why 93L or 94L is going to be doing the thing it is. So there's like the troughs right there. You see a decent upper level anticyclone with about 2 channels or 2 outflow channels. Really, but it's really weak upper level anticyclone. But there's the ridge right there. Really strong upper level winds there. Getting, let's see here, around 30 to 40, even some spots of 50 knots. But again, it's going to be a big pocket, a very low shear, less than 20 knots in the upper atmosphere into the lower stratosphere. So we're not going to really watch out for. We're not going to really need the fact we're not really going to need actually strong upper level anticyclone or even need one really whatsoever at all, because with this little shear in the upper levels, we're not going to have to worry about any tilting of vortexes or anything like that. But because of the ridge is right here, so kind of stretching from the Pacific and kind of bending like that, it's not going to go westwards. Actually, as this ridge gets pushed to the north because of this system, it's going to kind of just follow this ridge. So as this ridge now goes kind of this way, you're going to see it kind of push northward. You see it go push northward like that. That's going to allow for the pocket for it just to start turning northeast with the actual ridge itself, allowing it taking the landfall for Texas or Louisiana. But let's now, obviously, as the GFS going to have more of a stronger ridge, that's most likely why they're taking it to Louisiana. If it's more of a weaker ridge, or even just a weaker system itself, it's probably going to go towards Texas. But let's not go ahead and get a look here at the. Actually, that's really all I really need to explain, because the rest is kind of too far out. Obviously, 93L really doesn't need too much explaining. You kind of see decent TUTT right here. There you see an overall small weaker trough right there. A really strong ridge obviously right here. It's really all kind of got to explain. There you see a strong dip there in the jet stream. There you see those really strong Rosby waves up there within the Canadian ridge. It's kind of all I need to really explain for that. But as we now go, really, this is, I believe, this is a look here at 93L. There you see a really strong trough like that, and there you see a strong ridge. So again, if there were to be anything interesting there within the actual storm itself, it would probably kind of most likely go out to sea like that. Or if it was a really, really strong storm, it'd probably go like that. But obviously, again, it's going to weaken. And then as we go to September 18th and all that, when we see the good storm itself from the European, very little shear whatsoever. So it's going to be very, very favorable atmosphere. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.